For those who are not in the Hollywood world, what is wrong with her taking over the film?
I've never seen it before in my 30-plus year career in Hollywood. And an executive producer is below a producer in the film world. An executive producer signed up to be an executive producer, and that's it. As the
times where people ignore the red flags and say, let's just keep pushing, those are the times where you fail. The majority of things that we're buying are created by men. You always learn more from your failures than you do your successes. I love creating, and I think that as women, you're not often given authorship, yet women represent 85% of people making purchases in homes across all categories.
It is important in times like these to have a distraction. And that's why I want to personally extend my gratitude to Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Thank you for providing us with that distraction. I'm grateful. I think we're all grateful. And I think we're good.
And an executive producer is below a producer in the film world. An executive producer signed up to be an executive producer, and that's it. As the time progressed in this film, she decided that she wanted to be a producer. She started to make edits. She wanted to be part of the editing team. There were people hired, like human beings actually hired to do the editing job, who had done work as editors. She wanted to be part of that team.
Blake Lively was once regarded as a Hollywood darling, radiant on red carpets, beloved on social media, and rarely caught in public missteps. So imagine everyone's surprise when she boarded a private jet under suspicious circumstances, leaving behind a storm of accusations, leaked text messages, and a very persistent director named Justin Baldoni. For weeks, the entertainment world has been buzzing. Was Blake fleeing exposure of manipulative tactics? Did she simply crack under pressure? Or was this her best move to stay one step ahead of a rapidly spiraling controversy? This entire saga erupted faster than anyone could track, fueled by rumors, cryptic references to so-called dragons, and shocking revelations that arrived in waves. No one expected an actress with such a pristine reputation to exit so abruptly, just as new evidence threatened to tear down the defenses she'd built. In Hollywood, stories can twist within a heartbeat, but rarely do we see one unravel quite like this, leaving fans, executives, and even fellow co-stars scrambling to make sense of the fragments left behind. Before anyone had even a whiff of drama, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni looked like a match made in creative heaven. Justin, known for crafting heartfelt projects that resonate with wide audiences, was eager to adapt a novel that promised big emotional payoffs. Blake, celebrated for her charm and nuanced performances, seemed the ideal lead to bring this vision to life. Early interviews brimmed with positivity. She'd gush about how meaningful it was to work on something so profound, while he praised her dedication and quick wit. At first, the synergy appeared real. Cast and crew noticed how Blake asked thoughtful questions during table reads, suggesting minor tweaks or deeper emotional beats for her character. Justin, for his part, seemed open. He'd reorganize scenes if it meant capturing a more honest performance. On paper, it was an actor-director dream team. That's precisely why the initial rumors of friction sounded so unbelievable. The idea that these two, each widely regarded as personable and collaborative, might end up at each other's throats felt outlandish. But tension has a habit of creeping in without warning, especially in an industry where creative visions collide with big egos and carefully managed PR. Crew members whispered about offhand remarks, a stiff moment in which Justin tried to direct a scene, and Blake curtly responded with her own idea. An odd glance she shot him whenever he received praise for his script. Small signals, unimportant on their own, began adding up to something more. And by the time real problems emerged, the fuse was already lit. What was once mere speculation took a harsher turn when entertainment outlets began publishing stories about Blake Lively's on-set attitude. Overnight, tabloids labeled her demanding, aloof. Accusations that clashed with the affable persona she'd built over the years. The public's reaction was immediate. Fans were split between disbelief and concern. Some insisted she could do no wrong. Others claimed it must be smoke where there was fire. In a matter of days, Blake fired back, accusing Justin of planting these negative headlines to pressure her into creative decisions she didn't support. She hinted that he was using his directorial clout to monopolize coverage, effectively painting her as the problem so he could maintain a stranglehold on the production's narrative. Timing was everything. Her statements landed just as social media was exploding with debate. People who'd once adored her for comedic roles and philanthropic work found themselves asking if they'd misjudged her character, or if Justin was indeed orchestrating a smear campaign. For a brief spell, sympathy seemed to lean toward Blake. Many pointed out the broader, systemic issue of male directors overshadowing female leads, ignoring their input, and then labeling them difficult when they stand their ground. Her accusations fit into a familiar Hollywood storyline. If you looked only at the initial coverage, it was easy to assume Justin was just another controlling figure behind the camera, determined to push away any challenge from a strong female star. But that was before Justin decided to release what he called the receipts. Typically, behind-the-scenes disputes stay hidden or leak in drips and drabs, overshadowed by vague statements about creative differences. But Justin Baldoni took a different approach. In a move that stunned the industry, he published a slew of unredacted text logs. These weren't partial snippets carefully cropped to shine him in the best light. They spanned from the project's earliest days to the final weeks of shooting. What readers discovered was a director who continuously asked for Blake's perspective. In conversation after conversation, Justin requested her input on costume tweaks, set designs, and scene alterations. He apologized whenever scheduling or an overlooked detail caused her stress. The logs also noted how he shifted shoot times around her availability and reminded her he valued her ideas. In short, it was the opposite of the controlling, dismissive figure she'd described. More intriguing still were references to my circle and dragons on Blake's side, terms she used in texts or private group chats. Fans and insiders alike speculated that she was alluding to her husband, Ryan Reynolds, by now a comedic superstar with plenty of Hollywood clout. Some messages implied she could unleash these dragons if Justin refused to align with her creative agenda. It sounded dramatic, yes, but it also raised eyebrows. Was she threatening to overshadow the film or direct negative coverage at him if she didn't get her way? The public reaction shifted almost instantly. People who'd initially championed Blake began to question whether she had engineered a smear campaign, spinning the media narrative to her advantage. Others insisted the logs still lacked context. Maybe Justin chose only the friendliest exchanges, or perhaps new evidence was about to surface. In either case, the tide was turning. Just as opinions were toggling back and forth, the Hollywood grapevine exploded with another shock. Blake's attorney abruptly resigned. Normally, high-profile lawyers handle controversies behind the scenes, carefully shaping public perception. They don't generally step away with cryptic statements that their clients' stories diverged from the documented facts. The legal community was stunned. Some watchers speculated the lawyer had discovered contradictory evidence that weakened Blake's claims. Others hinted a conflict of interest or internal disagreement might be at play. But the message was loud and clear. Not even Blake's own legal counsel wanted to be on the hook for a fiasco that was quickly spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, on Justin's side, he maintained a steady, almost apologetic tone. He reiterated how unfortunate it was to see a creative partnership unravel. He didn't gloat about the text messages either. He framed them as a last resort to defend his reputation after repeated insinuations that he was controlling or misogynistic. That subdued but earnest approach gained him even more goodwill. Then came the seismic shift that still has the industry talking. Blake Lively quietly packed her bags and vanished. She canceled promotional events for another project, wiped her immediate calendar clean, and reportedly hopped on a private jet with only a few close associates in tow. No press release, no official explanation, nothing but a swirl of chatter about her potential whereabouts. Naturally, the rumors multiplied. Some believed she was fleeing potential legal consequences, worried Justin might sue for defamation, or that the studio might press charges for contract violations if she failed to complete obligations. Others theorized she couldn't handle the relentless media onslaught, so she sought refuge in a European hideaway to regroup. A handful of her diehard fans insisted that she was just taking a mental health break, well within her rights after the avalanche of stress. Regardless of the reason, her departure sent a clear message. She was done facing the music, or at least needed a pause. Paparazzi swarmed international airports, trying to spot her, but sightings were rare. One lounge employee claimed she seemed guarded, wearing sunglasses indoors and avoiding any wave or smile. The drama surrounding her flight overshadowed the entire project's potential. Headlines went from Blake and Justin's feud heats up to Blake Lively flees the country practically overnight. In the midst of the chaos, attention also swung toward Ryan Reynolds. If those cryptic references to dragons were indeed nods to him and his circle, How deeply was he involved? He's a comedic megastar, known for playful banter online and heartwarming stunts with fans. Nobody imagined he'd be tied to covert PR hits or rumored manipulation behind the scenes. Yet, the logs Justin released hinted that Ryan's influence was never far from the conversation. Blake mentioned him often, sometimes implying that if Justin pushed her too hard, she'd involve Ryan to shift the narrative. Though no text explicitly stated Ryan was launching a smear campaign, fans and critics alike questioned whether he'd used his comedic star power in more insidious ways. Meanwhile, TJ Miller, once at odds with Ryan over unrelated disputes, began talking about how he had long suspected some under-the-table tactics. Initially, people dismissed TJ's claims as sour grapes, but when Justin's logs echoed certain points TJ had made, the puzzle pieces snapped together. TJ, though never fully exonerated from his own controversies, felt vindicated. It looked like a pattern of strategic press leaks was indeed in play. Hollywood thrives on drama, but even so, this fiasco rattled many insiders. Producers who'd queued up future projects for both Blake and Ryan started voicing concerns behind closed doors. Studios prefer stars who play well with others, especially when budgets run high and reputations are on the line. If the leaked messages and attorney's resignation were any indication, dealing with Blake might now be viewed as a risk factor. Fans, for their part, found themselves torn. Some refused to believe Blake could be at fault, pointing to possible missing context in Justin's receipts. Others were outraged she might have manipulated an entire production to bend to her will. And still others expressed pity, contending that she'd endured so much negative press that fleeing was a perfectly human response to a nightmarish situation. Within Justin's production team, there was a distinct sense of relief. Several crew members admitted they had felt suffocated by the toxic rumors painting Justin as a villain. In private conversations, they'd confided that, yes, the filming schedule was demanding, and yes, creative tensions flared, but nothing merited the media meltdown that ensued. Justin's decision to lay out the entire text history had freed them from silent frustration. At last, the public saw what they'd witnessed day to day. In Hollywood, fortunes can shift overnight, and this story illustrates that truth like few others. Blake Lively, a name once synonymous with charm and comedic timing, found herself embroiled in a swirl of exposed text messages, legal breakdowns, and an abrupt relocation that the press continues to interpret in every possible way. Her flight, coming right on the heels of Justin's bombshell receipts, seems to many like a tacit admission that she had no immediate defense. But is that the entire truth? Perhaps she's genuinely overwhelmed, battered by media scrutiny, and felt leaving the country was her only chance to preserve a shred of privacy. Maybe she's holed up in a tranquil retreat, planning to address these controversies on her own terms once public sentiment stabilizes. Or it could be part of a grander plan, a strategic retreat before an orchestrated comeback when new evidence, if any remains, surfaces. Justin Baldoni, for his part, insists he wants closure, not revenge. He's still pushing forward with the film's final edits, determined that audiences see the heartfelt adaptation beneath the cloud of scandal. While he acknowledges disappointment that events spiraled so wildly, he seems resolute in defending his name and the production's integrity. Cast members have echoed that desire, praising his willingness to handle the tension calmly instead of fueling further tabloid fodder. Ryan Reynolds remains in an uncomfortable spotlight, fending off whispers that he either abetted or even orchestrated the drama. So far, his public statements have been minimal, leaving fans to wonder whether his silence is protective or incriminating. If his comedic brand was once bulletproof, it's now riddled with questions. Did Ryan quietly help shape negative press about Justin, or was he simply an innocent bystander in Blake's personal battle? As for TJ Miller, he's stepped back, at least for the moment, allowing the avalanche of Justin's receipts to confirm what he had alleged all along. He expressed relief that facts are finally on public display, though the satisfaction is bittersweet. Watching a big-name couple potentially unravel in real time isn't exactly a triumphant moment. While the dust hasn't settled, one thing is certain: the cautionary tale of star power gone awry resonates throughout the industry. Contracts, trust, public image, once these pillars crack, it can be nearly impossible to rebuild them overnight. The question looming over everyone's head is whether Blake will attempt a grand re-entrance after some time away, or slip into a more permanent retreat. until a new scandal sweeps this one off the front pages. Hollywood adores reinvention stories. Stars who face scandal often manage big comebacks, so perhaps Blake will too if she finds a compelling way to address the allegations. Yet the scale of Justin's documented evidence might make that uphill climb steeper than most. Fans are not soon to forget the allegations of a behind-the-scenes power play. Studios will be wary, having seen how quickly hush-hush creative differences can explode into career-threatening PR nightmares. Only time will tell if public sympathy rediscovers Blake or rebrands her forever as a Machiavellian figure who manipulated coverage. Perhaps in a few months, she'll offer her own curated perspective, pointing to the mental toll of these swirling controversies, or claiming her words were lifted out of context. Some watchers see this as an opening for real conversations about the intense pressures women face in entertainment. Could she pivot the narrative toward that angle? It's not impossible. For now, though, all eyes remain on a woman who's gone silent and a director standing firm behind reams of text logs. One vanished in the night, the other is left to pick up the pieces of a film overshadowed by scandal. Each day, more speculation floods social media. Sightings of Blake in a secluded European villa, rumors about Ryan meeting with top-tier lawyers, hush-hush clues from anonymous staffers. Yet beneath every rumor sits the same question: can Blake return from this unscathed? Or did she, in her haste to steer the narrative, push things so far that even her star power can't fix the damage? Whatever the next chapter, this meltdown reminds everyone that in an era of digital receipts, truth is harder to bury, and illusions are dangerously easy to shatter. One moment, you're the charismatic lead in a sure-to-be-hit adaptation. The next, you're a fugitive from your own reputation, with fans and critics alike glued to every morsel of gossip in search of answers. So, will the real Blake Lively emerge to set the record straight? Or is the curtain closing on a once-beloved icon who fled just as the final spotlight fell? Only time, and perhaps the next wave of revelations will tell. As the story continues to unfold, there's always more to discover. Thanks for tapping in now. Like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when more secrets come to light.